You find yourself in West Egg, a place of new money, restless ambition, and houses that rise like castles made of marble and laughter. Your own place is modest, almost quaint, but the air vibrates with the endless parties next door. Each weekend, strangers flood Gatsby's mansion men in tuxedos, women in gowns that sparkle like champagne. Cars roll up with laughter spilling from them, and music rushes out the open windows like waves. But you don't go at first. You watch. You listen. You wonder about the man behind the curtain of lights. Sometimes you step outside and lean against the cool railing of your porch, watching the tide of people drift through his gates. You notice how they move as if they belong, though most of them have never met their host. And across the bay, beyond all the shimmer, your eyes catch a softer glow, a green light, steady and haunting at the end of Daisy Buchanan's dock. You can't quite explain why it stays with you, why it feels like more than just a lamp flickering across the water. You spend evenings with Daisy's cousin Nick, who tells you he rents the small house beside Gatsby's palace. He's quiet, observant, the kind of man who notices how someone taps their fingers against a glass when nervous, or how silence can stretch like fabric. Nick draws you into his orbit, and soon you feel yourself woven into a story not entirely yours, but one you cannot leave behind. The first time you catch a glimpse of Gatsby, it's not during one of his wild nights. You almost expect him to stand on the balcony, arms wide, claiming all the glitter as his. Instead, he's simply there in the shadows, watching the water, his hand stretched toward that green light. It feels strangely intimate, like stumbling into someone's secret prayer. You don't call out. You only watch, the air around you quieter than it should be. The weeks roll by, and the rhythm of Gatsby's parties becomes a kind of lullaby. Even if you never join them, you feel the pulse through the summer nights. The laughter, the clinking glasses, the jazz that floats up and mixes with the hum of cicadas. But slowly, curiosity tugs you closer. Eventually, Nick himself receives an invitation, rare, handwritten, something personal. You tag along, stepping into a dream made of gold confetti and polished floors. Inside, the world bends. You walk through halls where champagne fountains never stop flowing, where dancers spin as though dawn will never come. And yet, amid all the excess, there's something hollow, as though the joy is rehearsed, repeated, waiting for something real to arrive. You notice how guests talk about Gatsby like he's a myth. One swears he was a spy, another insists he once killed a man, but no one seems to know him, not truly. When you finally meet him, it's almost by accident. He eyes an up-booming figure at the center of the room, but a gentle voice beside you, smiling as though he's been waiting. His manners are precise, his words carefully chosen, and yet you feel the hum of something deeper beneath the surface. He introduces himself simply, Gatsby, as though the name itself should answer everything. And perhaps, in a way, it does. From that moment, the nights shift. The parties continue, but they feel different to you, more like a stage than a celebration. You sense that Gatsby isn't chasing joy for its own sake, but rather creating a spectacle for someone who isn't there yet. The green light grows brighter in your mind, more insistent, as though all of this, the music, the laughter, the flowing rivers of champagne, exists to call across the water. Sometimes when you lie awake, you think of that light. You imagine Gatsby standing there, staring at it, believing it might carry him back to something he lost. You wonder about the things you've longed for, the people who remain shadows in your memory. Is it really possible to reach back and pull them forward? Or do they stay just beyond your grasp, glowing faintly, reminding you of what you can't reclaim? One evening, Nick tells you about Daisy, about her voice that lingers like music, her presence that once filled Gatsby's world. You can almost see her in your mind, sitting at a table with a lavender mug between her hands, her fingers tracing its rim when she drifts into thought. It makes you ache in a way you don't quite expect. You know already that this is not just a story of grandeur or wealth. It is a story of longing, of a heart that refuses to let go. And so you settle deeper, letting the hum of distant parties fade into your dreams. You wonder whether Gatsby's reach will finally touch the light, whether love can survive the distance of years and choices made long ago. You don't know yet, but you're willing to drift further, to follow the glow across the water. You return to the quiet rhythm of afternoons that hang heavy with possibility. The endless noise of parties becomes background hum, and now the focus narrows to something tender, something far more fragile. Gatsby wants Stacy, but not in the loud way the world demands. He wants her in silence, in whispers, in a simple shared moment where the clock might stop and the years might fold away. You feel his restlessness as though it's your own, that steady ache for something you're sure you once held but can no longer reach. It's Nick who finally helps the two worlds cross again. He arranges a meeting, carefully, cautiously, as though planning a delicate ritual. The air smells like rain that day, the clouds low, and you can almost hear the nervous thud of Gatsby's heart before Daisy arrives. He's dressed like a man bracing himself for battle, but his hands betray him, fingers fidgeting, smoothing his tie again and again. It's strange, watching someone so grand feel suddenly so small. When Daisy steps into Nick's modest home, the moment trembles. You notice her voice first, soft and lilting, carrying a warmth that feels like a secret melody. Gatsby's confidence collapses in an instant. He nearly flees the room, as if the weight of the years between them is too much to bear. For a moment, you wonder if this was all a mistake, if dreams kept alive too long only break when faced with reality. But then, slowly, something shifts. They sit together, at first awkwardly, cups of tea trembling in their hands. The rain thickens outside, tapping against the windows, until the sound becomes a kind of lullaby. Daisy touches the rim of her teacup absently, tracing circles the way you once imagined she might with that lavender mug. You catch yourself holding your breath, waiting. Gatsby leans closer, words stumbling out, and she laughs softly, an honest laugh, one that fills the air with ease. And just like that, the years begin to dissolve. You watch Gatsby's face transform as if a shadow lifts. His smile is fragile, like glass catching the light, but it glows all the same. Daisy's eyes soften, and for a few stolen moments, you can believe that time is folded neatly, that nothing was lost. Gatsby shows her around the rooms filled with treasures he's gathered, each one somehow waiting for her. Shirts in every shade of silk, colors so rich they almost hum when the rain light hits them. He tosses them onto the bed, and Daisy presses them to her face, laughing until her laughter turns into tears. You wonder if she cries because it's beautiful, or because it reminds her of what never was. There's a clock on the mantel ticking loudly in the hush between words. At one point, Gatsby leans against it clumsily, nearly knocking it over. You watch his panic as he steadies it, hands trembling, as if he fears he's broken more than a fragile glass vase. And yet, the clock continues. It always will. You feel the ache in his eyes, the wish that it could be turned back, rewound, made to grant him the years he lost. Still, the reunion lingers sweet. As the rain clears, light pours into the room, bathing them in a quiet glow. Daisy's cheeks are flushed, her voice lighter, freer than before. Gatsby watches her as if she's the only real thing in the world, as if all the noise of his parties, the rumors, the vast mansion next door, all of it, has been nothing more than a stage set waiting for this moment. Later, when they stand by the window, Gatsby points across the bay. The green light flickers in the distance, faint against the afternoon sky. You sense something loosen in him, as though the dream that once lived entirely in that glow now stands beside him, breathing, touching his hand. Still, you wonder, can a dream survive the transition from light to flesh, from distance to closeness? You hold the question in your chest, knowing it may not be answered yet. As days slip on, you notice how Gatsby changes. The parties continue, but he barely glances at them. The stream of guests, the champagne towers, the laughter, they mean nothing now. He isn't hosting for strangers anymore. He isn't trying to catch Daisy's eye from across the water. She's here. She sits in his garden, her dress fluttering against the breeze, her voice spilling gently into the summer air. And when Gatsby looks at her, it's as though every dream he's ever held is right there in reach. But even in these moments of sweetness, you sense the faintest tension, like a string pulled just a little too tight. You notice the way Daisy's hand sometimes lingers in Gatsby's, but then withdraws too quickly. You catch her glancing back toward her own home, toward the life she built without him. And though she smiles, though she leans into the warmth of his devotion, you still wonder if she feels safe enough to let the dream carry her fully. One afternoon, you find yourself walking past Gatsby's mansion with Nick, catching the sound of Daisy's laugh echoing across the garden. Gatsby is beside her, beaming, his posture proud but boyish all at once. You can't help but smile, but inside, a thought lingers. Is love more powerful as a memory or as something lived in the present? You know the sweetness of remembering, the comfort of replaying what once made you feel whole. But you also know the quiet risk of reaching forward, of trying to live it all again. The sky turns gold as another day folds into evening. You lean back, listening to the faint rustle of leaves, the distant hum of the city beyond, and the closer murmur of Gatsby's voice as he promises Daisy the impossible. You know he believes it, that he can somehow erase the years, that love can be rewritten like a story with no wrong chapters. For now, in the quiet warmth of that moment, you let yourself believe it too. The weeks soften into a rhythm, and you notice how the shine of Gatsby's mansion begins to dim. The grand parties, once untouchable in their brilliance, start to feel repetitive, echoes of laughter you've heard before, songs that circle back like records left spinning too long. You wander through the shimmering nights, brushing past sequins and glasses that sweat in the heat, and realize that the glamour doesn't thrill you anymore. It's beautiful, yes, but the beauty feels tired. Gatsby himself hardly pays attention to his guests now. He drifts through the rooms like a host fulfilling an old habit, his eyes always searching for Daisy. You watch him light up when she steps through the gates, a private sun cutting through the crowd. But you also notice how the room shifts around her. Some watch with admiration, others with whispers that sting in the background. Daisy glides, smiling politely, her laugh practiced, her hand often smoothing the fabric of her dress as though to ground herself. On certain nights, the party feels almost like a performance no one quite believes in anymore. The lights are still strong, the champagne still bubbles, but the magic leaks through the cracks. You see it in the way the waiters exchange weary glances, and how the music sometimes falters before it swells again. Even Daisy notices. She leans against Gatsby's arm one evening, her smile fading as she murmurs, "They're not here for you." Really. You see him brush her words away, but his eyes betray a flicker of doubt. Nick is the quiet witness, as always. He tells you later how strange it feels to see a dream so vast shrink down into fragile human scale. Gatsby built a world, a spectacle, but it all narrows to one person, Daisy. And though she is luminous, though she fills the space around her, you wonder if any one person could ever carry the weight of so much hope. One afternoon, you walk with Gatsby through his garden after the last guest has gone. The grass is littered with confetti, wilting flowers, and cigarette butts, the remains of joy already fading. He speaks softly, almost to himself, about the past, about golden days in Louisville, about the way Daisy once looked at him as though he were the only person alive. His voice grows brighter as he insists he can bring it all back. He will repeat it, he will restore it, he will fix time itself. You listen, nodding gently, but inside you feel the ache of uncertainty. Can love truly be repeated, or is it only ever remembered? There's a sweetness, though, in the smaller moments. You catch Daisy tapping her fingernail against a glass absent-mindedly during dinner, her eyes drifting to Gatsby with a softness that feels real, unguarded. You see the way Gatsby leans closer when she speaks, as though the world might collapse if he missed even a single word. They share laughter that is not rehearsed, whispers that no one else can hear. These moments soothe you, remind you that beneath all the spectacle, something genuine flickers. And yet the tension grows. Tom Buchanan, Daisy's husband, grows restless with the shifting orbit. He notices the way Daisy glows around Gatsby, the way her laughter doesn't belong to him anymore. You watch the way his jaw tightens, the way his hand lingers too firmly on Daisy's arm. He begins to arrive at Gatsby's gatherings, his presence sharp and unwelcome, like a cold draft sneaking through a warm room. You feel it then, the shift in the air. The parties lose their purpose. The crowd thins. One evening, you walk through Gatsby's vast home and find Whole Wings silent, untouched. The dance floor is empty, the champagne glasses stacked away, the music silenced. For the first time since you arrived in West Egg, the mansion feels lonely, too large for the man who built it. You realize then that the parties were never for the people. They were a signal flare, a lighthouse for Daisy. And now that she's close, the light no longer needs to burn. The summer presses on, heavier now, as though the air itself waits for something to snap. You sit with Nick on his porch, listening to the cicadas, watching the water ripple faintly against the docks. He tells you how fragile it all seems, how Gatsby believes so deeply in the dream that you almost want to believe it too. Almost. But then you catch Daisy's glance, the way it slips sometimes toward the road back to East Egg, toward Tom, toward the life she has not yet left behind. One evening, as the sun dips low, you stand in Gatsby's garden again. He is quiet, staring across the bay. The green light still burns, but softer now, no longer his only tether. Daisy is beside him, but you see the way her shoulders tense, the way her smile doesn't quite reach her eyes. You still wonder, does she love him as fiercely as he loves her? Or is she only remembering how it felt back when it was easier to dream? The music is gone, the laughter is gone. And though the summer sky glows warm, you feel the chill of change settling in. The parties have faded, and with them, the illusions that once dazzled you. What remains is quieter, more vulnerable, and somehow more real. You sense that the story is shifting towards something it cannot avoid. The heat of late summer presses down, thick and lingering, as you follow Gatsby and Daisy on a drive toward New York. The streets hum with the rush of tires, the occasional horn, and the distant laughter of people unaware of the storm building inside these quiet hearts. You watch Daisy grip the edge of her seat, a faint tremor in her hand, as Gatsby's eyes remain fixed on the road ahead, or perhaps on something unreachable beyond it. You feel the tension coil between them, as if the air itself has thickened, waiting for the inevitable. Nick rides along, quiet and observant, giving the couple space yet noting every flicker, every glance. You notice how Gatsby's jaw tightens when Daisy mentions the past, how his fingers curl around the wheel as though steering himself through memory itself. Daisy's voice rises and falls in the soft way it always does, yet you sense the weight behind each word, the gentle, unspoken tug of loyalty and doubt intertwined. You wonder if any single moment could undo years, or if some choices are already set like stones in a riverbed. They stop at a hotel, a neutral place away from the familiar glow of West Egg, where the air smells faintly of soap and the faintest trace of perfume from past guests. The lobby is quiet, the carpet muted beneath their shoes, and for a moment, it feels like the world itself has paused. Gatsby leans against the railing, and you notice a twitch in his smile, a hopeful tremor as he waits for Daisy to find her footing. The room hums with possibility and danger, and you catch yourself holding your breath, unsure if this will be the moment everything changes or collapses. Inside, the heat continues to linger, suffusing every corner of the room. Daisy touches Gatsby's sleeve lightly, a brief reassurance, a spark, but her eyes dart momentarily to Tom, the life she has not yet severed. You watch Gatsby's chest tighten, his heartbeat almost audible in the thick summer air. He leans closer, attempting to bridge the distance, but you see the hesitation, the subtle human realization that even the strongest love cannot erase the choices already made. When they step outside again, the streets are full of noise and motion. Cars speed past, people chatter in doorways, and yet a bubble of stillness surrounds the trio, as though time bends around them. Tom's presence is heavy, insistent, and you feel the subtle, tense exchanges that ripple through each glance, each carefully measured word. Daisy laughs nervously, adjusting her scarf, and you notice Gatsby's gaze linger on her, searching, pleading, as if willing the past into existence. The ride back is silent for a while. You sense Daisy retreating into herself, a quiet barrier forming between her and Gatsby, no matter how tender the moments before. Gatsby tries, as always, to keep the dream alive. His voice gentle, coaxing, but you feel the faint tremor of reality creeping in. The road stretches ahead, sun dipping low, and the world feels both suspended and inevitable, like a story poised at the edge of an ending. You catch small, intimate gestures, Daisy brushing a strand of hair from her face, the way Gatsby adjusts his collar with nervous precision, the way Nick sips his drink quietly, as though bearing witness to a fragile truth. You sense the weight of longing, of hope entwined with fear, as the day folds slowly into evening. Each mile feels heavier, each glance more loaded, until the city itself seems to hold its breath. By the time they return to West Egg, the air has cooled slightly, but the tension lingers. You see Daisy hesitate at her door, caught between worlds, the comfort of what she knows and the promise of what she might risk. Gatsby stands a step behind, a soft, almost imperceptible tremor in his posture, still reaching for a dream that might slip through his fingers at any moment. You feel the fragile balance of love and reality, the delicate thread that could unravel with the smallest pull. Later, as the night settles, you find yourself wandering the quiet gardens of the mansion, hearing the faint echo of past parties, the distant hum of traffic, the rustle of leaves in the breeze. You reflect on the moments of connection, the soft laughter, the brief touches, the shared glances across rooms filled with emptiness, and you wonder if longing itself is enough to sustain a dream. Can love alone carry someone across time, across choices, across the impossible distance between heart and circumstance? In the silence, Gatsby stands at the edge of the water, as he often does, eyes fixed on the distant green glow of Daisy's dock. You know he clings to it, clings to her, clings to the memory of what might have been. And in that moment, even as the world hums softly around you, you understand the fragile power of hope, the way it can illuminate, sustain, and yet quietly tremble under the weight of reality. The days turn quieter now, and you follow Gatsby through the soft hush of his final, fragile world. The parties are gone, the music vanished, leaving only the echo of memories that cling stubbornly to the walls. You walk past the mansion, its vast windows dark, the garden overgrown, and feel the solitude that has settled over him like a second skin. He moves through the house carefully, as though aware of every footstep, every sound, conscious of the silence that presses in on him from all sides. Gatsby sits by the water often, staring across at the faint green glow that still flickers at Daisy's dock. You can see the hope etched into his posture, the slight tension of a hand reaching out, not quite touching, but never giving up. There's a patience in him now, quiet, almost meditative, as if he believes that persistence alone might bridge the distance between dream and reality. You notice the way the sunlight glints off the water, reflecting in his eyes, and you feel the weight of longing that carries him forward, day after day. Daisy's presence has faded from his life and practice, even if it lives eternally in memory. She drifts in and out like sunlight through curtains, bright and warm when near, gone too soon, leaving a cool shadow in its place. You see Gatsby's chest tighten whenever her name is spoken, whenever a car passes that resembles hers, whenever he imagines the curve of her smile. Yet he does not despair outright. Instead, he holds to a quiet faith, as though the mere act of waiting, of hoping, gives purpose to the empty spaces around him. Nick remains nearby, the quiet observer of this slow descent, offering gentle words, a watchful presence. You catch them in long conversations on the porch, the cicadas droning above, the evening settling softly around them. Gatsby speaks in murmurs, sometimes recounting past days, sometimes only dreaming aloud, the sentences trailing off into the warm night air. Nick listens, never judging, only recording the subtle shifts in tone, the emotions that rise and fall like tides in the bay. You feel a strange comfort in this quiet companionship, a reminder that even the loneliest dreamers can find echoes of understanding. One morning, Gatsby's eyes linger on the horizon longer than usual. You follow him as he strolls through the garden, brushing past flowers now dulled with age, and you sense a finality in the movement, a gentle resignation that life cannot always be bent to desire. His hands are steady yet soft, tracing the outlines of his possessions, the rooms, the halls, as if memorizing them one last time. There is a peculiar peace in his gestures, a quiet dignity in a man who has lived entirely within hope and memory. You remember the green light again, the symbol that carried him through seasons of longing and expectation. It shines faintly now, its glow soft by distance and time, a quiet beacon of all that was dreamed and almost realized. You see him smile, faint, wistful, and you understand that hope itself is beautiful, even when it remains just out of reach. The mansion, the bay, the distant hum of the city beyond. These are all parts of a story that concludes softly, without ceremony, without loud finale, leaving only the echo of tenderness in the spaces between. In these final days, you notice the smallest details. The way sunlight filters across a polished table, the flutter of curtains in a late summer breeze, the gentle tapping of Gatsby's fingers as he imagines conversations that will never come. Each moment is quiet, intimate, a reflection of a life spent chasing a singular, impossible dream. And even as the world moves on around him, he carries that dream with a grace that feels almost sacred. Eventually, the quiet stretches fully across the mansion, over the bay, across the empty roads of West Egg. You feel it settle into your chest as well. A soft, lingering sigh, a slow acceptance of endings and memories. And though the story draws to its final notes, the tenderness lingers. You remember the laughter, the soft touches, the stolen glances, and you carry the quiet ache of longing along with you. The dream dissolves, yes, but in its place remains a gentle imprint, the memory of beauty, devotion, and hope. The summer air softens as night drifts fully over West Egg. The vast houses sleep quietly, the water laps against the shore in soft, rhythmic pulses, and the distant city lights shimmer like a memory half remembered. You settle into the hush of these moments, feeling the gentle pull of stillness, letting the warmth of the sun and the hum of cicadas fade into gentle dreams. The past lingers lightly, its weight softened by the quiet intimacy of memory, and you allow yourself to breathe slowly, deeply, as though inhaling the story itself. You trace the outlines of faces, gestures, and laughter in your mind, the tilt of Daisy's head, the precise way Gatsby smiles when hope hums brightest, the quiet steadiness of Nick observing it all. You sense the fragile power of connection, the gentle ache of longing, and the comfort that comes from knowing even impossible dreams leave traces that matter. It's a soft, glowing warmth, the kind that seeps into your chest and makes the world feel just a little kinder, a little fuller. The final moments linger like slow music, notes fading one by one. You feel yourself drifting alongside the story, weightless, carried on a gentle current. Even the green light across the water seems calmer now, a quiet reminder that beauty can exist even in absence, that love can endure even when unfulfilled. And in the quiet, you find a sense of peace, a deep sigh that stretches through body and mind, easing away tension, leaving only soft echoes of hope and tenderness. Slowly, your thoughts soften, your heartbeat calms, and the edges of the world blur into gentle darkness. You carry the story with you, tucked beneath your eyelids, a lullaby of memory and longing. Let the hush settle fully, let the warmth linger, and feel the quiet joy of having lived a dream, even for a fleeting moment.